quiet as I pulled up to my driveway. Everything looked normal except for that one car. An unfamiliar black sedan sat parked a few houses down, just outside the shadows of the street lamp. I wouldn't have thought much of it, except it wasn't there when I left for my trip. It wasn't from the neighborhood. Something felt off. I had come back earlier than expected. My business trip had wrapped up ahead of schedule, and I wanted to surprise Rachel. But as I looked at that car, a strange sensation washed over me, an uneasy feeling in my gut that I couldn't shake. Maybe it was nothing, I thought. Or maybe it was something. My hand tightened around the steering wheel as I sat in the car, engine still humming, eyes locked on the sedan. Was I being paranoid? No, something was wrong. I could feel it. I killed the engine and stepped out into the night air, my footsteps unnaturally loud in the silence. The porch light was on, but the rest of the house was dark, a soft glow seeping through the curtains of our living room window. I hesitated at the front door, keys in hand, before deciding to circle around back. That's when I noticed the car again. It had a vanity plate, V45. My chest tightened. David? An old family friend? Suddenly everything clicked into place. The back door creaked softly as I eased it open, stepping into the kitchen. The house was still, the kind of silence that seemed unnatural for this time of night. Normally Rachel would be watching one of her shows, the television a comforting hum in the background, but tonight there was nothing but the quiet, thick and heavy. I stood there for a moment, trying to calm the rush of adrenaline. I couldn't shake the thought of that black sedan. David's black sedan, my fists clenched as I moved slowly through the kitchen toward the living room. Every step felt like walking on glass, my heartbeat thudding in my ears. The glow from the living room became brighter as I got closer, but I didn't hear the TV. Suddenly I froze. I heard it, muffled voices, low, intimate, coming from upstairs. I felt the floor tilt beneath me as the reality hit. My mind raced, trying to process the situation. I could hear them now, Rachel's laugh, soft and familiar, but not from me. It felt like a punch to the gut. I fought back the urge to charge up those stairs and confront them right then and there. I had to know for sure. I needed to see it with my own eyes, even though every fiber of my being wanted to turn around and leave, pretend this wasn't happening. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I crept up the stairs. My breath was shallow, my muscles tense as I neared the bedroom door. It was cracked open just enough for me to peer inside. And there she was, Rachel, lying in bed, her head resting on David's chest, both of them half-dressed, tangled in each other. My world shattered in that moment. The betrayal hit like a tidal wave. For what felt like an eternity, I just stood there, frozen in place. My hand gripped the door frame so hard my knuckles turned white, but I couldn't feel a thing. It was like time had stopped. All I could do was watch, unable to believe what my eyes were showing me. Rachel, the woman I had spent over a decade loving, trusting, and building a life with, was lying in bed with David, the man I had known for years. How long had this been going on? The thought gnawed at my insides, each question tearing deeper into me. My mind flashed back to the dinners we'd shared with him, the laughter, the easy camaraderie. David had always been charming, but I'd never suspected he'd betray me like this. I had invited him into our lives. He'd been at our wedding, for God's sake. And now here he was, in my house, in my bed, with my wife. I could hear Rachel's voice now, soft and playful, as she leaned closer to him, brushing her lips against his neck. The sight made my stomach churn. I wanted to burst through the door and tear the room apart. My fists trembled with the urge to fight, to confront, to scream, but something kept me rooted to the spot. It was the realization that no matter what I did, this moment had already destroyed everything. There was no undoing it. I tried to swallow the rage, forcing myself to think clearly. I needed to understand how deep this betrayal went. How long had Rachel been living this double life? My mind raced, trying to piece together any signs I might have missed, nights when she came home late, excuses that didn't quite add up, the subtle changes in her behavior that I had brushed off as normal. It all seemed so obvious now, but in my blind trust I had refused to see it. A bitter laugh almost escaped my throat. How many times had Rachel and David sat across from me, smiling, while hiding this? How many lies had she told me, swearing she loved me, that she was happy? The depth of their deception was suffocating. The worst part wasn't the cheating itself. It was the realization that this wasn't a mistake or a one-time lapse in judgment. To Rachel's ease with David, the comfort they shared, it spoke of something far more sinister. This affair had roots, and it had been growing in the shadows for who knew how long. My marriage, my life, everything I thought I knew it was all I damn needed to leave before I did something I couldn't take back. My rage was boiling over, my vision going red, but I forced myself to step away. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down, of watching me crumble in front of them. No, I would handle this on my terms. With a slow, deliberate breath, I turned and walked back down the stairs. My legs felt like lead, but I moved as quietly as I could. I reached the front door, grabbed my keys from the kitchen counter, and stepped outside into the cool night air. The darkness felt strangely calming, as if the world outside hadn't collapsed like mine had. I stood by my car, trying to breathe, trying to keep the anger from overtaking me. My marriage was over. There was no going back. I stood by my car, gripping the keys so hard I could feel them biting into my palm, but the pain barely registered. The cool night air was supposed to calm me, but nothing could touch the storm raging inside me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to drive my fist through the nearest wall. The silence of the suburban street around me felt surreal, too peaceful, too ordinary for what I'd just witnessed. I glanced back at the house, that cozy two-story home Rachel and I had built together. The place where we'd spent countless nights celebrating birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries. Now it felt like a graveyard filled with dead memories. I couldn't stand to look at it anymore. But I wasn't ready to leave, or I couldn't just walk away from the life I had built over the last decade, not without answers, not without confronting them. But what would that achieve? What would walking back in there do? I'd catch them red-handed, sure, but then what? A shouting match, accusations flying back and forth, maybe even a fist fight with David. And for what? Would that fix anything? Would it take away the betrayal, or the image of Rachel wrapped in another man's arms? Snow confronting them like that would only give them the upper hand. They'd turn it around, make it about me, about hadn't seen the signs. Or worse, that I had driven Rachel into David's arms. That's how these things worked, right? It was never the cheater's fault. I'd seen it happen to others. Somehow, the betrayed always ended up shouldering the blame. I couldn't let that happen to me. I got into my car, my breath coming out in harsh bursts as I gripped the steering wheel. I could feel the rage simmering just beneath the surface, but I forced myself to think. I couldn't make decisions in this state, not now, not when I was on the verge of losing control. I needed to be smarter than that. After a few deep breaths, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront them tonight. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me lose my mind or let them manipulate the situation in their favor. No, I needed to take a step back, figure out my next move. This wasn't just about catching Rachel in the act. This was about destroying whatever they thought they had, and doing it in a way that left no room for doubt or excuses. With that thought in mind, I started the car, the engine roaring to life beneath me. I pulled out of the driveway slowly, glancing once more at the house in my rearview mirror. The soft glow of the bedroom light still shone through the curtains, oblivious to the chaos just beneath the surface. I drove aimlessly for a while, the streets burring past me as I tried to wrap my mind around what had just happened. Betrayal didn't just hurt, it hollowed you out from the inside. It left you questioning everything, every moment, every word. Was Rachel ever truly mine? Or had she always been waiting for someone like David to come along, someone who could offer her something I couldn't? The thought made me sick. I had been so sure of her, and now nothing made sense. How long had this been going on? Was it just sex or something more? I realized then that I needed answers, not from them, but from myself. I needed to know how deep this betrayal ran before I made any decisions about what came next. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove for hours the dark streets of the suburbs, stretching out endlessly before me, like some cruel maze I was trying to escape. But no matter how far I drove, the image of Rachel and David together burned in my mind. Her lying there, wrapped in his arms, laughing as if everything was right in the world. How long had I been blind to this? How long had they been making a fool of me? I pulled into a hotel parking lot just before dawn, too exhausted to drive any longer. The place was a far cry from the home I'd left behind, but I didn't care. I just needed somewhere to collapse, somewhere to think. After checking in, I found myself staring at the ceiling, my mind racing, unable to sleep despite the overwhelming fatigue weighing down my body. Questions gnawed at me. When had it started? Was it years ago when David began showing up more frequently at our dinners, charming us both with his easy laugh and smooth charisma? Or was it more recent during those nights when Rachel claimed to be working late? The answers seemed elusive, slipping through my fingers like smoke, and with each passing hour, the need for clarity grew unbearable. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through old messages. Rachel's text, so casual, so loving, nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing to suggest the web of lies she had spun. But I knew the truth now. There had to be more hidden beneath the surface, and I needed to find it. I opened my email, searching through years of correspondence. Again, nothing. It was as she had scrubbed her tracks clean. Then a thought struck me, her phone. I had never been the kind of husband to snoop through Rachel's things, but now that moral boundary felt like a joke. I needed answers. The last time I had seen her phone, it was lying on the kitchen counter next to her purse. She had been careless, trusting in my blindness. Maybe she hadn't deleted everything after all. I was tired of being the one in the dark. My resolve hardened, and I knew I had to go back. I had to see what was hidden on that phone. I didn't care if it made me look desperate or paranoid. I needed to know exactly how deep her betrayal went. There was no way I could move forward without those answers. By late afternoon, I was back in front of the house. The black sedan was gone. I couldn't tell if that brought me relief or more anger. Was David going to slip in and out of our lives unnoticed, thinking he could just come and go as he pleased? Not anymore. I stepped inside, the house feeling strangely foreign now, like I was intruding on someone else's life. The familiar warmth was gone, replaced by a hollow coldness that seeped into my bones. Rachel wasn't home, thank God. I didn't want to face her, not yet. I wasn't ready for the lies, the excuses, the tears she would inevitably use to manipulate the situation. I headed straight for the kitchen, my heart pounding as I spotted her phone still lying on the counter. She hadn't taken it with her. Maybe she didn't expect me to come back so soon. My hands trembled as I picked it up, flipping it open. Her messages were innocuous enough, the usual back and forth with friends and colleagues. But then, buried beneath a series of harmless texts, I found the messages with David. There they were, hidden under a different contact name. A disguise that would have worked on me before when I was blind to her deception. The text told the real story. The affair had been going on for over a year. They had planned everything, each meeting, each stolen moment, laughing about how easily they had fooled me. My blood ran cold as I scrolled through the messages, each one feeling like a fresh stab to the gut. Rachel had shared her most intimate thoughts with him, things she hadn't said to me in years. I felt sick, disgusted, like I was reading the journal of a stranger. The realization hit me like a freight train. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't some fleeting mistake or moment of weakness. This was a calculated betrayal, carefully orchestrated behind my back for over a year. Every message between them was a dagger, each one more painful than the last. They weren't just sharing their bodies. They were sharing a life I didn't even know existed. Rachel wasn't the woman I thought she was. She had become someone else, someone I didn't recognize. I stared at the phone, scrolling through the endless thread of messages. Every text was filled with inside jokes, playful banter, and intimate secrets they had crafted together. She had confided in David about everything, her frustrations, her desires, even things she had never shared with me. She had woven him into the fabric of her life, as if I was just an afterthought. The sheer depth of it made my skin crawl. One message stood out, sent just days ago. He gone for a few days, so we'll have the house to ourselves. Can't wait to finally have a night without sneaking around. I miss you. That was it. That was the confirmation I needed. This wasn't just some casual fling or a physical escape. This was a relationship, something she had been building with him in the shadows, while pretending everything was normal with me. She had planned it all, orchestrating our life so she could live two parallel lives, one with me, and another, more secretive one, with him. I felt my blood boil as I kept reading. David's responses were just as damning, full of arrogant confidence. He clearly felt no guilt. He had played me just as much as Rachel had. The man I had once called a friend was nothing more than a vulture, picking at the bones of my marriage while I remained blissfully ignorant. I couldn't read any more. My chest tightened and I felt I couldn't breathe. The weight of the betrayal was suffocating, crushing me from the inside. I threw the phone onto the counter, disgusted by the sight of it, disgusted by them. I leaned against the kitchen island, trying to steady myself, but the anger bubbling inside me was impossible to contain. I could see it now, all the moments I had missed, all the red flags I had ignored. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden bursts of coldness followed by unwarranted affection. She had been living a lie, and I had been too blind or maybe too trusting to see it. My mind spun, trying to reconcile the Rachel I knew with the person who had been sending these messages. How long had she been this person? Had she always been this deceitful, or was this something that had crept into our lives without me noticing? Suddenly, I heard the door open. Rachel was home. Panic surged through me. She couldn't know what I had found not yet. I needed time to process this, to decide what to do. I had the truth now, but I wasn't ready to confront her. Not while my emotions were still this raw. I grabbed my car keys, shoving the phone back onto the counter as I bolted for the door. "Michael?" I heard her call from the hallway, her voice casual, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My only focus was getting out of there before I exploded. I slammed the front door behind me, the sound echoing through the quiet neighborhood as I climbed into the car and peeled out of the driveway. The further I drove, the more the reality of what I had uncovered began to sink in. Rachel's betrayal wasn't just a crack in our marriage, it was a chasm, one that couldn't be repaired. The life we had built together, the trust I had placed in her, was gone. Now, the only question left was how I was going to end it. The tires screeched as I sped away from the house, my hands gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. I just needed to get away from the house, from Rachel, from the truth that had torn my world apart. The messages still echoed in my head, every word a fresh wound. How could she? How could they both do this to me? My thoughts spiraled in a chaotic loop, each turn more violent than the last. Betrayal wasn't something I had ever imagined would happen to me. Rachel had been my partner, my confidant, my everything. I loved her so deeply, trusted her so completely that the idea of her being unfaithful was something I never even considered. And yet here I was, driving aimlessly through the dark streets, my marriage in ruins because of a man I once called a friend. I pulled into an empty parking lot, the lights of a 24-hour diner casting a dull glow across the pavement. My hands were trembling as I shut off the engine. I sat there staring blankly at the diner's neon sign, my mind numbed from the weight of everything. How had it come to this? How had I missed the signs? The cold, hard truth was that I had been too blind, too trusting. I had given Rachel the benefit of the doubt, even when things didn't add up. I had believed in our love, our marriage, while she had been building something else with David behind my back. I slammed my fist against the steering wheel, the pain dull compared to the storm inside me. How long had they been laughing at me? How long had they been getting away with it? Thinking I was too stupid to notice. The thought made my stomach turn. All those dinners we shared, all those moments we spent together as friends, were they mocking me the whole time? Every smile, every laugh between them now felt like an insult. My phone buzzed in the cup holder, jolting me out of my thoughts. For a moment, I hesitated, afraid of what I might see. Was it Rachel, realizing I'd left without a word? Or maybe it was David, smugly unaware that I knew everything. Slowly I picked it up, my heart pounding as I unlocked the screen. It was Rachel. "Where did you go? I just got home. Everything okay?" The sheer normalcy of her message made me want to scream. How could she act like everything was fine? How could she pretend even now that nothing was wrong? It was like she was living in a completely different reality, one where her betrayal didn't exist. The nerve had infuriated me. I was drowning in the wreckage of our marriage, and she was acting like I had just gone out for a quick drive. I typed a response, my fingers shaking with anger. But as I stared at the screen, I stopped. What was the point? What could I possibly say that would convey the depth of my pain, my rage? No words could express what I was feeling right now. And frankly, I wasn't ready to let her know that I knew. Not yet. I deleted the message and tossed the phone onto the passenger seat, leaning back in my seat. As I stared up at the ceiling of the car, what was my next move? How was I going to confront this? Part of me wanted to drive back and unleash every bit of rage on both of them. I could picture it now, storming into the house, shoving the phone in her face, screaming every vile thought in my head. But another part of me, the part that had been blindsided by this betrayal, knew better. I needed to be smart. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming control. If I charged in blindly, they would find a way to twist the narrative, to make me the villain. I couldn't let that happen. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. I needed a plan. I needed to end this on my terms. And when I did, there would be no doubt left, no room for Rachel or David to wriggle out of the truth. This wasn't just the end of my marriage. This was war. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring blankly into the night as the reality of what I had to do slowly sank in. The weight of it pressed down on my chest, making it hard to breathe, but the clarity that came with it was undeniable. This wasn't a situation I could fix. There was no coming back from what Rachel had done, no path to forgiveness or reconciliation. I had to walk away from this wreckage and start over, no matter how painful that would be. I thought about the life we had built, the house, the memories, the countless moments that now felt hollow, tainted by her betrayal. It was all meaningless now. Every anniversary, every sad glance, every time we had said, "I love you," it was all part of a lie I hadn't even known I was living. And now I had to destroy it. I had to leave it behind, or it would destroy me. With a deep breath, I started the car again and drove back home, this time with a purpose. There would be no confrontation, no explosive fight, no chance for Rachel to twist the story. I would be calm, methodical, and resolute. I had made my decision. I was leaving, and she was going to feel the weight of that decision for the rest of her life. As I pulled up to the house, I saw the light in the living room still on. She was probably waiting for me, maybe even worried. The thought made me feel sick. I parked the car, stepped out, and walked to the front door. The air felt colder now, as if the house itself was bracing for what was coming. I opened the door, and there she was, sitting on the couch, her phone in hand, looking up at me with confusion. "Michael, where did you go?" "I've been calling. What's going on?" Her voice was laced with concern, but I could hear the undercurrent of defensiveness, as if she was already preparing to explain away whatever I had found. I didn't answer her. Instead, I walked past her and headed straight upstairs to our bedroom. I could hear her footsteps behind me, hurried and anxious, but I didn't stop. I grabbed a suitcase from the closet and started packing. "Michael, what are you doing? Can we talk about this? What's going on?" Rachel's voice cracked, the concern turning into panic as she realized. This wasn't a casual argument. I could feel her eyes on me, watching as I methodically packed my clothes, one item after another, without saying a word. "Michael, stop. What are you doing? Please talk to me." She was frantic now, her voice rising in pitch as she tried to get me to respond. I zipped the suitcase and finally turned to face her. Her eyes were wide with confusion and fear, her hands trembling as they reached out for me. "I know," I said simply. My voice was cold, detached, like I was telling her the weather. Not that I had just uncovered the depths of her betrayal. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. "I know everything, Rachel. About you and David. About how long it's been going on. I saw the messages, all of it." Her hands flew to her mouth, and she took a step back as if the truth had physically hit her. "There's nothing left to talk about," I continued, my voice steady even as my heart pounded in my chest. "I'm leaving, and I'm not coming back." Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't care. Not anymore. Whatever she said, whatever excuses or apologies she tried to offer, it wouldn't change the fact that our life together was over. She had destroyed it piece by piece, with every lie, every secret meeting, every moment spent with him instead of me. I grabbed the suitcase and walked past her, heading for the door. She called my name, her voice breaking, but I didn't stop. The moment I crossed the threshold, I felt a strange sense of relief, as if the weight of her betrayal had finally lifted from my shoulders. I didn't look back. I couldn't. There was nothing left for me there. I walked out into the night, got into my car, and drove away, this time for good.